Hello again, everybody. Today, in this video, we're going to be talking about indent and paragraph, okay, here in Microsoft Word, and how to do that. Now, the first thing that we need to understand is what the indent is, okay? We all know what a paragraph is, but in specific, what is an indent? Okay, let's start with that. So, indent. Indent is the start or position that is separated from the margin at the beginning of a paragraph. Okay, so basically the indent, as per this definition, is the separation from where the text begins all the way up to the margin of the page. Okay, now we're going to create we're going to talk about a few ways in which you can increase or decrease the indent in any paragraph, okay? And how it works here in Microsoft Word and how you can make it work for you. And well, it's not really that difficult, but once you learn it, you can never go back. That's the interesting part. Okay, when I learned this, it really opened my eyes to a bunch of other things that I could do. So the first thing is the first line indent. Okay, I'm going to indicate this as um, as a header or as a topic. Now let's just put it in bold. Let's just put it in bold, not to make too much of a formality here. Okay, for the first line indent, what I recommend is that we go again to, as I've mentioned before, to the Lorem Ipsum website. The website is lipsum.com. Okay, and we're going to use it to generate just a bunch of text. So what I want to do is I want to create three small paragraphs. Okay, so let's start with by generating the three paragraphs. This is going to give us the information. Generated three paragraphs, 280 words, 1,920 bytes. So we copy this thing and we paste special and then paste as unformatted text because I don't care about the format. Okay, so we've got all of the text here. Now this probably looks like it makes no sense. It's computer generated, and in fact it makes no sense. Some people might think is Latin or is some kind of old tongue, but it's really not. It doesn't mean anything. So what we do is that we select, we highlight any of the text, and if I want this first part to be separated, what I do is that once the text is selected, we move this thing right here on top of the ruler. We have these two markers right here on the ruler. Okay, and we're going to move the first one. It says right there, as you can see in the pop-up text that shows up right there, it says first line indent, and we could move it a couple of inches or a couple of centimeters depending on what's your standard, and only the first line is going to be affected. Okay, and then if you start another line, it's also going to start with the indent from that previous paragraph. Okay, now another thing that you could do is that you could select all of the text, okay, all of the text that you have. So just select everything. And then if you do the first line indent again, it's only going to affect the first line of each one of the paragraphs. Okay, so I expand it like this, and as you can see, only the first line of all three paragraphs is the one that's being affected. And you can go as far as you want, okay, as far as you need to, be specific. As far as you need to yeah, as far as you need to. That's what I meant to say. Okay, so that's the first line indent. Okay, in the next part, we're going to talk about the full paragraph indent. Okay, full paragraph indent. Okay. For the first paragraph indent, we're going to again we're going to paste the same thing that's already on in the memory stored somewhere. So we're going to paste unformatted text, and it's going to give us the same as the previous one. Okay. So now for the full paragraph indent, as you can see here, we're going to select all three all of the paragraphs. Okay, there's 3 pretty long paragraphs. I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter. We don't need it to be that long. Okay, and this one as well. Let's eliminate up to here. Okay, so let's select everything. Now to modify the full paragraph, this time it's going to be a little bit different. We're not just going to move the top because that only modifies the first line. We're going to select it from the bottom. And if you select from the bottom, it moves everything that's in line with this marker. Okay, so I moved everything according to what I've selected, and it's all moving in that direction. Okay, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to do this again. I'm going to select the text that I want to move, okay, in its entirety. I select everything, all of it, all the way down here, and I'm going to push it just 1 inch for the, or in this case it's 1 centimeter, just for the sake of looking at it. So now the paragraphs that I've selected are the ones that are being affected, which I think is pretty cool and pretty interesting. Now in the next one we're going to talk about the paragraph margins. Okay, now check this out. The paragraph margins. Yeah, this starts getting a little bit more interesting because now we can play with more things that don't just have to do with the first part or the indent. We could also modify or affect the rest of the paragraph. Okay, again, paste on formatted text. We're probably going to make it a little bit smaller. We're going to make the bottom one a little bit smaller. There we go. And we're going to eliminate the first few lines of the last paragraph. We don't need it to be that big. So, so I'm going to select all of this, all this stuff right here, all of the 3 paragraphs, and then I'm going to move the beginning, the whole margin on the left, and I'm also going to move the margin from the other side on the right, and then I push it all the way in, and it's going to be modified that way. Okay, now you can do that. It's quite easy, and now the whole thing has been affected. So now, as you can see, the margin begins and ends in different points from in comparison to the previous texts. Okay. The next part that we're going to talk about is the line and paragraph spacing. Okay, line and paragraph spacing. There we go. Okay, for this one we're going to probably do a text that's a little bit smaller. We're going to do just, let's do 100 words. Okay, and then if we need to separate it into paragraphs, we'll do that. Sometimes this website separates it for you in a random place, of course, but not in this case. So we're going to, again, edit, paste special, and we go to the unformatted text. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're going to separate these into 2 paragraphs. Okay, then we select everything. Oh, and by the way, these 2 pages are supposed to be 2 pages. You can't see the separation unless you put your mouse or your cursor right here. You double click it, and you can see how the page is going to actually look in case you decide to print. Okay, and this just eliminates visually the white space in between. Okay, so I double click it, and now we can see it all together as if it were in the same place. So now we select everything that we want to modify, and we can actually modify how separated the texts are from each other. Now there's a couple of different ways of doing it. In this case, it has single space, 1.15 space of separation, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, or you could just go to the options and tell it how many you want it to be separated. Now, as you can see here in the example, this is a preview of what happens. Now you can separate it with a certain amount before the text begins or afterwards. Okay, so now if you hit enter once, you're going to see the separation. Okay, in the case of the line spacing, right, it gives you a bunch of options here. Or you could just do it manually. Instead of doing 1, I want a 1.25. Okay, and it gives you the separation of the 1.25. Or I want a 2.3. And it gives you a separation of 2.3 lines of separation based on the size of the font. Okay, so I wanted 1.25. I'm going to leave it at 1.25. I hit OK with 6 points before and 6 points after. Well, I'm going to leave this at 0. Okay, just because we don't need it to be any other way. But you can do it. You can do it if you want to. In fact, I'm going to do it at 6 points afterwards, and that's it, not before. I hit OK, and you're going to see the separation based on what you just specified on the window right there, or in the window that just opened. All right. The next part is the paragraph alignment. This is kind of like to make your paragraph look beautiful. Okay, and I do recommend you to use this and be as professional as you can. Okay, and well, I'm going to explain to you what the alignment is. The alignment is basically how the text is going to be placed. If it's going to be placed pushed towards the left, which is the standard, exactly in the center, pushed to the right, or justified on both sides. Okay, again, let's take this paragraph as well. And we're going to paste it a couple of times. So the first alignment is left alignment. I think I didn't copy it with unformatted text. There we go. Okay, very good. Looked a little bit different from the previous one. The left one, and as you can see, it's already placed by default towards the left. Let's do towards, I'm going to copy this the way it is, just so I don't have to do the paste special again. Right alignment. Okay. So it's all going to be pushed towards the right margin, like this. Okay, so it's exactly the same text, but it looks completely different. The next one is the center alignment, like in this case. Okay, let's select whatever it is. Let's select the whole text right there. We hit, we paste it, but now we click on the center alignment button right there, and you can see that it's all perfectly centered in comparison to the full page. Okay, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, the last one, which I think is the most professional looking, is called the justified. Okay, this is called justified alignment. Okay, justified alignment. All right, so I pasted here. And now what it's going to look like is that both margins are going to be looking exactly aligned to the margins that you gave to the text. Okay, which looks pretty professional from my point of view. So I recommend you guys use that as much as possible. Then shaded or colored background. Okay. Shaded or colored background. So you take one of these texts, or whatever text you have, and let's say that certain parts of the text are pretty important. So I say that this one, donek bitae, whatever. I select like that, and you can choose any of these colors. So I'm going to select this one in yellow, and then this one is also pretty important. So I'm going to select this in a different color, so it's visually, easier. It's easier to see. Okay. And then something like this. And of course you could select any of the colors. And if you want to eliminate it for whatever reason you want and you don't want to use it anymore, or you want to eliminate the highlight, you select where you want to eliminate the highlight. So in my case, I want to eliminate this whole part at the end of the sentence, right there. And then I go and expand this, and I go to no color, and it's going to eliminate it right there, and for that one in specific. Okay, and I think that's it for the moment. Thank you very much for your time, and feel free to drop me any comments or questions in the comment section. All the best.